I guess the first question that I had for you was in terms of like classic American musical theater. Um, what is your favorite thing about like choreography from this like time period?
That's a great question. I think it's I think it's the just really the style of it. I think that because I grew up learning
Mm,
that style, I think like I love contemporary nowadays, and
mm,
I really appreciate the form. But like I grew up on Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire,
mm,
White, Michael Kidd, like that. That's what I grew up on
yeah.
watching and learning, and that's what I was taught in dance school. So I think it's just that form that it's like, and also that I think I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but that like all of those dancers had such strong technique,
Yeah.
so like underneath all of that great movement, like you could tell they had like worked for that, like they had
Mm.
really worked for that technique and those lifts and those turns and those jumps and those, all that stuff that like it's it's very impressive. It's very impressive.
I mean, there is something about like see, I went to a small liberal arts performing conservatory, and there's always some like weird like not rivalry, but there's always something like the dancers didn't like the musical theater people, and the musical theater people always thought, well, the dancers are in our playhouse, they're in our space. But anytime that I watch any form of dance show, whether it be, any kind of style, modern ballet, anything, I was just like gobsmacked at like the sheer strength of what dancers can do with their bodies, essentially. So I feel like I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to know, since you have worked on both, stuff for the stage and for, television, I wonder, going into Schmigadoon, I guess, what is the thing you're most conscious of in terms of choreographing something for the stage versus television?
It's to me, it's all about focus. Like
Mm,
why I love working in both mediums now, especially
mm,
now, is on stage. It's the type of storytelling you have to do on stage is you have to show the audience like where to look, like in the
mm,
choreography, in the makeup of like that box.
yeah,
It doesn't change. So like the set is here and here's the box. So if I want to show information, that woman with the red shoe is going to like pass something on to this in this dance move or do this lift, like I
mm,
have to make sure that when I'm constructing that part of the choreography, that all eyes, or at least all the energy is kind of heading in that direction, so the audience
yeah,
goes, oh, that's happening over there, or just how to, or when you want something to come forward and explode at you on stage, it's like, you start from the back and rush forward. In film or TV, you can do that like with editing, like you can
yeah,
be way more specific and go like, oh, I only want to see like that finger snap, or I only want to see, like, I want to start on that person's like amazingly arched foot and then pull back
yeah.
and see a leg and pull, like you can be more specific in just in a different way. But I love the challenge of both.
I don't know, you choreographers, you can do marvels with making our focus shift. Like just like, I feel like I've seen shows where maybe a director will collaborate with a choreographer to maybe sort of show something happening on stage, right? When like maybe there's some mechanic or technical thing that has to happen on stage live. So I think um because Schmigadoon does pay homage to the thing that I love about it is like it is so specific, but is not specific. Like I understand the references, but it is all completely original music, all new choreography. In terms of the choreography standpoint, how do you sort of, for a lack of a better phrase, sort of pay homage to the time period without necessarily like copying something, if that makes sense?
Oh no, it absolutely makes sense. And that's what was such a why this was such a dream project, because
Mm,
it was to me, there are like iconic moves. Like there are just certain
right.
iconic moves that people know. And so it's not necessarily taking a whole, for example, just talking about like corn pudding, like to me, my inspiration for that was June is busting out all over, because
Right.
essentially it's like it's spring and we're all gonna have sex, but it's like
Right.
never said, it's never, it's just inferred and kind of the the metaphor of it all. So but there are moves in it that are very specific, that are just fun to make, not, I don't want to say make fun of, but pay homage to, because it's like it's clearly a sexual dance move, but so it's like you can, so it's kind of like I just went through and just pulled like the flex of all of my favorite, I just made lists of my favorite moments
Mm.
that I would love to try to get in, and as well, like, and pay homage to all of the greats, because they I think in that era, what they accomplished in terms of pushing dance forward,
Mm.
it was just extraordinary. I mean, it opened the doors to like what we're able to do now. I don't think we could have done unless they all accomplished what they did in that time. They took such extraordinary risks in terms of
Yeah.
like how long. I mean, I don't know nowadays if you can get away with as long of a dance as like the Dream Ballet in Oklahoma, or like,
Mm.
I mean, there's the joke in Schmigadoon that we we got the Dream Ballet, but
Yeah.
I love a Dream Ballet. But again, it's like they were really pushing those boundaries then, so that we could do all of everything that we can do now. And
Mm.
um so that's why, so in Schmigadoon, it was all about trying to just take the flex of memories of like what would people connect with, and then try to put it in a blender, and then like that's Schmigadoon. Like
Yeah.
it's not one thing, it's just like it's everything. It's all of it.
Well, I mean, sounds like I might be bragging, but like I've done Carousel, I've done Oklahoma. I remember being in such like awe of in awe of a dream ballet, just because it was like, the first time that dance and movement could really push the story forward, and without having sort of any dialogue or anything like that. Like I remember like studying those shows in school, and then like just watching them. It is sort of like, this singular American art form that I'm so glad that Schmigadoon, you know, both lovingly embraces, but also sort of like pokes fun at a little bit. Like that's the beauty, I think, of the show, that it balances that tone so beautifully well. Um, and I have to say, Corn Puddin', until I went back and rewatched it, I was like, this is like the horniest Rodgers and Hammerstein song that was never written. I had forgotten because I got through the show so quickly, and then I went back and I was like, oh,
It's
there's lots of slapping of body parts. That's
It's,
great. I love it.
yeah, I mean, I did a breakdown of it yesterday for someone.
Mm.
It was like, oh, we're gonna do a breakdown, a tutorial of corn pudding, and the first thing I put the corn, and I was like, well, there you go, and like when they flash their skirts up, and
Yeah.
if you want my pudding, I mean, it was just like,
Yeah.
well, we're just gonna go for it, and
Yeah.
someone tell me to stop, but I'm not gonna stop until they tell me to stop. So all in. So here we
And
go.
you could probably, if somebody was like, hey, wait a minute, they're like, what are you talking about? This
Oh no,
is wholesome.
it's absolutely
Yeah,
wholesome. I mean,
100%.
there's nothing in that number that is not family friendly. I
No.
mean, they're just giving a little flick. It's a little
Yeah.
attitude, even though
Everything's covered. It's fine.
they're
Yeah.
saying, if you want my pudding, it's fine.
Okay. Um, I want to ask about Tribulation. That was my favorite song of the first season, for many a reason, just because I like that it's like an uncut shot. No pressure. You have Kristen Chenoweth, who's a goddess. I'm still writing, angry letters that she wasn't nominated for supporting actress just for that song alone. Um,
You have to hold my tongue. Yep, agreed.
I saw her in concert like a couple of months ago, and it was just like I knew it was going to be magical, but I had like no idea how magical it was going to be. Um, with a song like that, I think that is very deceptive, because it's not just walking around, but you guys make it look so easy. Like even when like somebody sneakily hands her a Bible, that's all movement. So I guess um if someone tells you like, oh, it's just walking around choreography, like what do you say to that? Like what is like the most difficult thing about creating something that doesn't look like movement, but it clearly is movement? I'm using a lot of air quotes, I'm sorry, but
I'm Italian. I do this a lot with my hands, so it's
yeah.
like I get it. No, well, I mean, I mean, that's why I was, when I submitted it to be, to be looked at, I was like, gosh, should I? Because there's not really choreography. But then in my head, I was like, well, it's literally all choreography, because
Yeah.
what people don't know is it's like, yes, it's a riff on, and do you mind if I like give you the little bit of
No,
backstory?
sure. Go
I
ahead.
think
Yeah.
it's just fun because the quick story is I got Schmigadoon because Cinco DM'd me on Instagram because
Mhm.
he couldn't find me, and so he DM'd me and he said, "Are you the choreographer that did Hail Caesar?" And I
Mhm.
said, "Yes." And he said, "Oh, he's like, here's my number. Call me. I think I have something that you might enjoy doing." And then we had a quick chat about like he just like, I really like the way you embraced like the golden age style and the movement. It looked really authentic. He's like, and I also loved it was like these really long takes and these
Yeah.
really shots and like it's head to toe body. I said, yeah. I said, that's like, again, that's like a dream to get to like go back in time and like do that because no
Mhm.
one does that anymore. So we talked about that. So cut to Tribulation. I get the song and it's like it's a genius song. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just
It's great.
genius. Genius. I mean, it's genius. And so we're doing pre-production, and I was like thinking back on what Cinco said, and I was like, it would be absolutely epic if someone did this as a oneer. I was like,
Wow.
if
God.
someone could do this as a one take, I said that would be like a feat of like human nature.
Mhm.
And I'm not this. I swear to God, literally, like I had just said it, and like 5 minutes later, an email comes in or a text or whatever, and it's like, oh, Kristen Chenoweth just accepted Margaret Leighton, and I was like, we're doing it. Like I wasn't even
Yeah.
like, I was like, it wasn't even. I was like, one person on earth that could do that. I was like, it's Kristen. I was like, she's going to
Yeah.
do that. So like from that moment, it was like it was constructing like how, and we did it like a previs version, and then she came in and she's like the loveliest person on earth aside from
Mhm.
talented. So there's that. But then like she came in and we collaborated and it was like boom, boom, all the beats. Like she's such a hard worker and she's so specific and and her instincts are just like always right.
Yeah.
So it's like, so we went through like beat by beat, like the previs and all that stuff. And so, you know, t- and so, yeah, she does it. And we did it in conjunction with the man who was operating the Steadicam. We ran it like a million times to make sure it worked. But
Mhm.
like, what I say is the choreography of that, it's not just the choreography that you're seeing on screen, it's the choreography that was happening
Oh, yeah.
off screen. Because what people didn't see was the marching band run around the Steadicam man to get into place. So when she finally says, I'll do it, and we start panning back, and there's a freaking, like there's a like a marching band there, and then people have, Margaret,
Yeah.
latent signs for mayor. Like, where did they come from? Like, it was
Mhm.
all this like magic. And then there were these banners, and then the drop happened, and like they weren't there when she walked around the first time. And then she ends up like, I don't know if you can, I think you can tell, but like the end, she like does that like MGM, like she walks up that
Mhm.
ramp, so she gets higher than everyone. So you have like, so once she passes that part of town, you have someone pushing that thing in there so that she can get up on the. So it wasn't just, to me, that's why I'm so proud. Like, to me, that encapsulates like the whole Schmigadoon experience. Like, it was
Yeah.
like in that room was like in it, like to like, we are going to get like
Mhm.
Alan Cummings stayed an extra 2 weeks just for him to pop out of that door, like just for him to say, and the mayor, ooh, like he
Yeah.
literally, because he was like, this is going to be a blast. And he's like, and I want to, like every person was like so invested in that number and to make it great that like, to me, that was the choreography of that number. Like, it was what you saw and what you didn't see. So that made it really, really, and she got it in the first take.
Of course you did.
I mean, she literally got it in the first take, and I have it on film. like her watching herself back, just like,
Uh,
just because you just couldn't believe that she did it. And well, and also like everyone did it. Like
yeah.
everyone was like so in it that it just happened in one take. We got two for safeties, but it was like they used the first one because she nailed it. I mean,
Even just like uh, I, when I watch it again, just because well, the first time I watched it like 5 or 6 times on a loop. So I was like, there's an edit in there. There has to be an edit in there. And I was like, no, there's not. She's just, it's like a perfect encapsulation of, a stage actress being able to take it and being able to do it. The fact that she didn't want to take, my God, that just blew my mind. But it was also just like, it's just one thing messes up, you have to start it all over again. So it's like around the tree, up the thing, down the thing, the doors. So it's just it's my that number is mind-boggling to me. So thank you for telling me that story. That's an amazing,
oh,
amazing
thanks.
story.
Even the
Um,
peanuts, like even when even like when the peanut spill happened, we were like,
mhm,
like when she like knocks over the guy and the peanuts fall out and she steps on
yeah.
his, like even things like that. I was like, if one thing went wrong, back to the time, she so yeah, it was very. I said a lot of booby traps in there for her, but
Yeah, you did.
she is a pro. She was not letting it get to her. She
Yeah,
did.
that's amazing. In terms of, I don't know how I just forgot the name of that last song. The Ariana DeBose.
Oh, with all your heart.
Yeah, oh my God.
That's okay.
It's literally written here somewhere, and for some reason I couldn't find it. Um, this is gonna sound like a jokey question, but I wanted to know the biggest struggle of having a bunch of children tap dancing on desks. Just because anytime tap dancing happens anywhere, I like swoon like an idiot. Just because I
Oh,
think tap dancing is just like um, the most classically wonderful, beautiful thing you can watch. And the fact that you got not just kids, but like a whole group of kids to do everything like that, I guess bravo to you, because holy shit. But I guess, yeah, what is the biggest challenge there? Or is that just the biggest challenge? Just
and I will be totally sincere about this. Honestly, those kids, because of COVID, like we had to do certain things. So we sent them
mhm,
a combination ahead of time because we had limited time because of COVID being in the room. You couldn't be in the room for longer than this and all this stuff. So we sent them the routine ahead of time, and they all came in and just knew it. Like those kids were,
oh,
and I have to say, and their parents and their families, whoever their guardians, like
yeah.
they were so. And then I would go in, we would watch it, we would clean it, and then I'd go, oh, maybe could we change this? We would retape it. They would go home, come back, letter perfect. I mean, those kids were amazing. And the hardest part about it, that's why, to be honest, was like they were the easy part. Like that they I mean, I just adore those kids to pieces. The
Mhm,
hardest part was the kind of COVID safety of it all, because
mm,
we had such limited time with them because of COVID, but also like because of safety, they're tapping on these desks,
oh,
before and after every take, we had to have mats laid out in that grid just in
mm.
case someone fell for
Oh,
safety.
wow. Okay.
And we had to have like a guardian standing by close, like by each desk, just to make sure, like that's the part. And these are the parts I captured on tape because
Mm,
this was the stuff that was like, you think it'd be like, oh, kids are going to tap on a desk, but it was like they would lay down mats between every row, every aisle. You had the guardians, you had the kids in
mhm.
masks, you had the kid. It was just like, wow. So that was actually the hardest part about it, was negotiating the time, because we knew that
Oh,
there was going to be
wow.
so much time taken laying down the mats between every take, like getting their shields off, getting their masks off,
Mhm.
like all of the technical stuff to make it happen. So that's why I mean, so when we had them, it was like the time was precious. So we really took good care. I felt we took really good care in terms of like I would send them notes every night, like, don't forget about this arm. Here's a new
Mm,
change we did in the video, like just, and then they would come in and they'd get it. Like I mean, those kids were, I mean, you could tell, I mean, they were on it. Those kids were on, as was Ariana, but we're talking about the kids, but those kids were so good and professional and just like, I'm so grateful to them for like putting in all the work they did. They were great.
I can't imagine having to give somebody notes, like choreography wise, like during a pandemic with all these extra stuff, just because that's just crazy to me. Like I had forgotten the funny thing is I had forgotten that you guys filmed during the pandemic. And um one of the times that we watched it, my husband was watching it with me, and he assumed because it was filmed during COVID, he was just like, oh, they probably you know, had the kids dancing and maybe they CGI'd them on the desks. But when they got off the desks and they like start opening them, he's like, oh my God, they're not CGI. Like, holy shit, they're actually dancing on the desks. Um,
I love that story though. That's amazing. I wish we
yeah, because they're all they all nail it. It's all so synchronized. It's crazy. It's so crazy. Oh wow. Um, I guess one last question before I let you go. When I found out that season 2 was Chicago, I screamed just because I love Chicago #1 so much. And you know, choreography of the 1970s, especially if we're talking about maybe like a thread of cynicism with Bob Fosse. I don't know. I was curious, what are you most excited about with season 2? Just because it is so different than season 1.
It is absolutely different than season
Oh,
one.
so
And
excited.
that's I mean, and I mean that's why, I mean, I don't know what I'd have to do to give Cinco like I feel like I have to buy him an island somewhere or something, like, out of gratitude, because it's like to get to work on Schmigadoon alone was, like I said, like it really was a dream come true to get to like to put yourself back in that golden age space and do these numbers with that like
Mhm.
classic looks and all, like, and they lit it like all of it. It was like you were working on, we never left a soundstage because of COVID. Like we were on sound stages the whole time. So like that alone was just, like if that was it, I would have been thrilled. And then over the holiday, it was like, we're coming back. I was like, what? He was like, and then he told me the name and I was like, dead, because
That's,
hilarious.
yeah, that's
I mean,
amazing, man.
hilarious. And then he started telling me, it's going to be so impossible not to give spoilers, but he started telling me like, right, because we move forward in time a bit and we get into, Chicago land and that kind of music and all of that. And then when I read the script, it's like it is so it's above and beyond. I think people are going to be just blown away. I'm
Yeah.
not would, but like it's because it ups the ante in terms of like, they purposefully kept Schmigadoon, that was good. Schmigadoon simpler because it was simpler. Like they were long
Right.
take, they were head to toe, they were, like it wasn't because of on the cheap or anything, like it was, they just wanted to honor that look.
Hmm.
Now when you go into the 70s and you get into like Fosse inspired films and things where you have like people in foreground and shots between legs and you like,
Hmm.
it's like, okay, we're doing this, right, we're doing this. And so it was really cool to go to that next step and create with that in mind. It was like now pulling up all of those favorite films of that era and going like, oh, these shots, well, then they started playing with all of these like other forms of cinematography and
Yeah.
and it was like, oh my God, I mean, it was just so, I mean, I just got back, like we just wrapped like 2 days ago,
Yeah.
and it was just like heaven. It was like, I mean, I think people are going to be blown away. I'm so excited.
As soon as I heard what it was, my mind started racing, and it was just sort of like, I was like, I want to know what a sort of Schmigadoon-esque version of like something like Rich Man's Frug is gonna look like. I was like, I said something about like, I was like, if we don't get like a Jane Krakowski, um, Cecily Strong nowadays something, I will hunt someone down. Like I'm so excited. It made me realize that I didn't even know how into that time period of musicals I really am anymore, but
You,
okay.
you will not. I don't think you'll be disappointed
I'm
at
not
all.
ready. Great. I'm not ready. Okay. Um, well, thank you so much, Christopher, for your time. I have to just thank you for one more thing. I was delighted when I found out that you did the choreography for Hail Caesar because I think, I mean, everybody loves Channing Tatum, but the imagery of Channing Tatum dancing like head to toe in a sailor outfit with a bunch of other men in sailor outfits in that one scene is one of like literally one of the sexiest things I've ever seen. So I had the shot of him like turning, holding the other guy with his legs up. That what has been is I have to check like my cover photo on Facebook and Twitter for the longest time, just as I was obsessed with it when it came out. I don't know. Good
Well,
looking men that can dance is like the hottest thing to me. So yeah.
well, that was literally the first joke. Like I always start when I'm choreographing comedy, especially if I know it's a comedy. Like
Mm.
that was my first. Like I start with a joke and then I work outwards.
Ugh,
That was my first joke. I was like, when when they walk into the bar, that's what they see. So I was like, I started there. So I was like, so I had so my whole so then I go, I have to keep the bar there.
yeah.
So if it goes to there, I know where the bar is for the whole number. But that was the first joke I knew that was in there. I was like, oh, when they come in, he has to be like, huh?
Yeah.
So
Oh my God. I love that.